Hi, babe. Welcome to the Horror Babe Show. I'm your host, Chelsea Beller. Today's guest is a powerhouse of a woman. She does it all. She's a filmmaker, a writer, a director, a mother. Alison Star Locke. Allie and I met virtually through a mutual friend of ours, Fina Sanchez, and today she's on the ghost couch with me. We talk about her phenomenal feature, The Apology, and her most recent short film, Pickup Time, which is circuiting festivals as we speak. We get into the stigma of being a woman in horror, creating your own shit, and making space for yourself and your creativity, and loads more. Let's tune in to my conversation with Alison. Hi, babe. Welcome to the Horror Babe Show. I'm your host, Chelsea Beller, and today we have Alison Star Locke on the show.
Hello, everyone.
Alison is a filmmaker, director, writer, editor, mother. You do it all.
I do lots of things. I'm not actually an editor, but I appreciate the credit.
Oh, wow.
My husband is an editor, though, so it is very much in the family.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
You're editor adjacent.
Yes.
Alison wrote and directed a feature from 2022, The Apology. She's also written and directed many shorts, one of which I watched this morning, Pickup Time, which is circuiting the festivals.
Yeah, we're almost done with our run. So we're going to be at Finger Lakes Film Festival in a few weeks, and then Renegade Film Festival in Atlanta. So I get to go to Renegade, which is really exciting. I've never been to Atlanta, so that'll be fun.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And then it'll be up on YouTube. Yeah, so
cool.
we went to Nightmares Film Festival, Horror House, Wyoming. There were so many shorts that were made during the strike that the festivals got overrun. Totally. So it was very hard to get into anything.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a beautiful problem. I love that everyone kind of had the same instinct I did, which is like, I can't wait a whole year to make something. Yeah.
If you're just stuck at home, but you're still feeling creative, I mean, run with that.
Absolutely.
You know?
So I literally made the film at my house, in my front yard with my friends, and it was very freeing.
That's
very
awesome.
Nice. Yeah.
I love that. You've written so many shorts, and you've been nominated and won bunches of awards for film festivals and things. That's really incredible. How long have you been doing this?
Well, I went to film school at USC, and I was class of 2000. I like to say my stupid human trick is admitting my age in LA. So I'm 47. I made my first feature at 44, and people love to hear that because, of course, you never want to think it's done. Keep making things. So I did reality TV for a long time. I was a story producer, and I was making shorts the whole time. And then I stayed home with my daughter for a while because she's autistic, and she needed a lot of advocacy. She was quite, unhappy for a long time, and then she went and did all of her therapies, and we worked together, and now she's like a real piece of human sunshine, that kid. She's great.
I love that.
So she was doing better, and I was doing worse, and needed to get back to work. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go try to make this feature, The Apology, and I brought it to an old friend of mine who I'd made shorts with, a producer named Stacey Jorgensen, who's also just, human sunshine. Can you read the script and tell me if you know anybody that would like to read it? Kept the ask very small. And girl, she called me the next day and was like, I want to produce it.
Oh my God.
So we made the film. It took a long time to package. And then before I knew it, we were making the film in 9 months. I mean, it was incredibly short period. Once we had it packaged, the actual making of the film was only about 9 months. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, so it was a whirlwind, 2022.
Wow.
But I like to say it's a good lesson in remembering that, as much as we always want to meet more members of our community and make more connections and get more turned on by what everybody's doing, chances are you've already got people in your life that are going to be your, key collaborators.
Yeah.
And you just kind of need to get focused on what you want to do and be really clear about your asks and, that kind of thing. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so, and I also just got fairy tale lucky. I mean, who the hell gets that opportunity of I had a real budget on this. I mean, it's a low budget, but still, which they don't like me to share. But but just that it wasn't, I was expecting to make it for $250.
Yeah.
So to make it with IATSE crew, which, Go Union, were amazing. Make it with those actors. I mean, it's just what a dream.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So it was a very different experience in making my shorts, because my shorts have all been self-funded. They're usually at my house or my buddy's house, that kind of vibe, you know, very DIY.
Totally.
So to the point where I got a little confused sometimes when I was working on the apology, like, I don't need to loan you my Christmas decorations, because I feel like I do. Like, we need to lower our budget. And they're like, no, we're fine. And I didn't realize that was actually going to make it harder on them. But there is a lot of my Christmas decorations in the film.
Are they really?
Yes.
I love that. It's like your own, like,
yes,
skin and blood is in it.
Oh, 100. There's pictures of me and my family and my friends through the house.
God.
And there's pictures of our costume designer also joined in the fun, Michelle Lane. So there's some pictures of her family in there. And
That's
Anna's
so
family.
cool.
Like, that's my superstition, is like put some photos of people in your life in the film. I don't know. It's like
I like it.
a little cameo tradition.
Yeah.
I'm not an actor.
Because it means they'll live forever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just a very broad question.
Yeah.
How did you get into horror?
Okay, so my gateway was Friday the 13th. I was a big fan. I love slashers.
Me too.
And so that was my big gateway. My first horror film was Poltergeist, which I watched literally between couches at a family party. They didn't know I was watching it. And I still love that one so much. But the thing that really got me, like, I realized later that I had kind of thought of horror as a guy's thing. I wonder why. But
what? Where did you get that idea?
Yeah, I have no idea. But just that thing where you just think, oh, it's a gross kind of like misogynistic, looking at our booties only kind of vibe. And so I just kind of was like, well, I like them, but that's probably not a place for me. And then I went to see a documentary at a theater, I can't remember which theater, called The American Nightmare. Which, if you haven't seen it, a lot of horror fans haven't even heard of this documentary, but it made a massive impact on me. And it was about American plus Cronenberg. It's always like American filmmakers plus Cronenberg, the one honorary Canadian. About like filmmakers in the 60s and 70s and how they made horror films that were about political issues. So the idea of Night of the Living Dead being about civil rights, and Shivers being about the sexual revolution, and things like that. And I was like, what? Because I kind of went into filmmaking, at least to a certain degree, because I wanted to talk about like the tough things. I never want to make like just a political film in that way, because I do think that that's less of how you get to people. Right. And less, and gives you less room. Artist, you know? You need to add that personal touch. Yeah. So I was just like, oh shit, you can do that? Okay. And then I just got obsessed. So I love like survivor horror. Yeah. You know? Like literally climb out of the tree, you know, like I love Inside and, you know, that kind of stuff. So, so I got very inspired by that, like what was possible. I started writing features about it, but I kind of didn't know what to do about it. And I hadn't really made shorts about it for a while. And then finally I kind of like, you know, titsed up and started making stuff that was I really sunk your teeth into it. Yeah. So now I'm like all about it. It's it's my big love. Oh, I'm kind of like a late bloomer in that sense too. Oh, nice, because I feel like I always feel a little like I missed out on the slumber party aspect. Oh. I was watching all the like I showed everyone Porky's, you know, because it's like we didn't have like. You know, I'm 47, so it's like we didn't have the like girls slumber party movies that were like about sex, so we just watched all the boy ones and just kind of were like didn't even realize the difference. Right. Yeah. And The Craft. Yeah, and of course. Of course, The Craft. For me, it was like I like grew up loving Halloween and the bits and pieces of horror movies that like my mom would watch. Sure. I would like, you know, like tune into that. Through like middle school and high school, I did have like a group of friends that we would watch horror movies every time we were together. Nice. But it always felt like a group thing. Like I couldn't do it by myself, and I was an only child, and like I never had anybody that I could like that was like encouraging you or had an outlet. Yeah. And like the times that I did, I don't want to make this about me. No, but I find it fascinating how often I have met more women that have had this sort of experience where it's like they felt like they weren't kind of allowed in some way. Yeah. You know, or didn't have that support. Yeah. I kind of felt like it was this weird like stigma thing for a long time, and like the times that I would want to talk about it, like, you know, people would make a face, or you know, my boyfriend at the time was like, what? Or you know, not the right guy. And I'm nodding at her significant other. But yes, like all hail the guys that get it. And so it's only in like the last few years that I've really been like,
I really want to dive into this. I want to watch horror movies like
Yes,
as much
all the
as I
time.
can, and
Yeah.
not just during fall. And
Absolutely.
right?
We like to joke that it's 365.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
So my obsession has just gotten deeper and deeper, and then since I made the apology, I had started to meet some horror fan friends, but then since then, especially because of our mutual friend Chelsea Stardust, she really introduced me to a lot of other horror filmmakers and fans and scholars, and I went to Dead Right Horror Trivia for years. It really is like, oh, great, everybody can just be excited about this stuff together, you know? Anytime you find your people, I think is so important in life.
Oh, 100%.
You know, that's, I think, so much of the key to happiness, is feeling like you belong.
It really is.
Like you have something to offer.
Yeah, like you're valued.
Yeah.
What a concept.
I know.
I want to talk about the apology.
Yeah.
It had a great effect on me.
Oh, I'm so glad.
I cried.
Oh, I'm so glad. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
You're welcome.
I love that one of my goals as a filmmaker is like to make people cry, but it's catharsis, right? That's the goal, is that you want to make people feel less alone.
Yeah. For our viewer, The Apology is a 2022 psychological thriller, drama, horror
Mashup.
blend.
Yeah.
And it takes place during Christmas. It's on Christmas Eve. And it stars Anna Gunn.
Yeah.
Which, like, how the fuck did you get her? Like,
yes.
If you don't know Skylar from Breaking Bad, just the most incredible actress. Once the movie was over, I was like, I can't imagine anyone else doing this role.
Yeah.
Like, she was cast so perfectly for this.
Thank you. Yeah. I have to credit my producers because she was their idea. And as soon as they said it, I was like, oh, of course. She's amazing. She's such a talented actor.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we got to have such heavyweights. They also proposed Linus Roche, who plays the lead male, and he is just heaven sent in every sense of the word.
Yeah.
I really am a big believer in, like, obviously there's exceptions, but most of the time, quote-unquote villains are usually played by the most lovely people because they have the capacity to examine these things.
Yeah.
I could have a real conversation with Linus about the layers of Jack and why.
Yeah.
And Janine Garofalo was my idea, though, 100%.
Oh
and I
God.
can't believe that
she was so
she called
perfect.
me up to accept the part.
Did
and
she?
I was like, she's like, I haven't even finished, this is Janine, I haven't even finished the script, but I want to say yes. And I was just like, what? I can't do impressions, but she has that energy. You know?
Yeah.
And I was just like, I think you should read the whole script. And she literally goes, do I have to take my clothes off? And I said, no. And she goes, then I'm fine.
Then we're good.
It was so hard in so many ways. The subject matter is so hard. It was my first feature. You know, we were still sort of in COVID land.
Yeah.
You know, so it was so hard to make the film. I was constantly battling overwhelm and everything, but it was also so beautiful. I would like cry because I was overwhelmed. I would cry because everyone was so amazing. I would cry because the scene was moving. Luckily, I'd warned everyone that I have a tendency to.
I think you have to.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm not crying because I'm upset.
I'm not falling apart. I'm just very in touch with my feelings.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Not sorry.
Not sorry. So to me, this felt like a love letter to true crime fans.
Absolutely.
And true crime victims.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Because you get that retribution that we all want so badly. I listened to a couple true crime podcasts, mostly My Favorite Murder.
This was absolutely pretty directly inspired by My Favorite
Oh,
Murder.
good.
Yes.
Yes.
I actually need to like write them a letter and be like, FYI.
I think you should.
You know, like
yeah.
I thought you should know. Well, their approach to telling true crime stories, I just connected with it so completely.
Yeah.
Like the idea of using humor, the idea of using it as an empowerment source,
Yes.
the idea of using it to connect women, make us all feel
Yeah.
less crazy for being so nervous.
Yes.
You know, and then there was some specific cases that they did that they if you don't know that podcast, they tell stories with this sort of lens of feminism and compassion and what
with
can
a
we
little
learn?
bit of humor.
And definitely a lot of humor, and which I really responded to because that's what I do with my work too. The apology ended up being less funny than it originally was written.
Really?
Because it was such intense subject matter.
Yeah.
It just kept feeling strange. Even Janine Garofalo was like, I don't know about a joke here, Allie. But most of my other scripts have a lot of humor in them.
Yeah.
And the apology came from a dream that I had after I watched some documentaries.
Wow.
And it really became like a metaphor for it was funny, like learning about these searching families, because of course we all know about missing kids. We grew up with like the milk carton generation and stuff. When I started to really understand the process of what it was like to be a searching mother, I connected to it because I am a special needs mother, which is what they call, I mean, you know, these terms are all funky, but it's like just the idea that there's this extra layer of stuff that you're kind of dealing with.
Yeah.
And like, so some of these mothers would talk about the paperwork and how polite they'd have to be in these interviews and stuff. When they were just like, you're talking about my kid like they're a commodity, like it's gross, you know?
Yeah.
And so it sort of felt the same way in some ways with my kid having a disability. And I was like, how crazy is that? But that's the beauty of art sometimes, is you're just like, oh, I'm really connecting with this idea of never feeling like you're enough for your child, which I think most parents feel. Yeah. Especially mothers. And I think especially if you have anything extra that's going on with you or your kid. Right. You know? And so then I just kind of wrote from there.
I have so many questions and thoughts about it.
I'm so glad, because isn't that a moving thing? Like if you make a piece of work that makes people want to think about it. That's great.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
I was thinking about it all night long. I got a headache.
Oh my God, thanks.
It really is the ending that we want.
Yes.
Every time we hear one of these stories that we almost never get.
That was a big thing for me, is I'm finding I'm liking writing a lot of wish fulfillment films. Oh. You know, like this idea of like, let's put you through it because that's what it's like. You know, you're put through it. And so the big question for me was like, if I had been in that situation, what would I want? And what would he think I want? Right. Because there was something kind of like fascinatingly icky about the idea that he would have an idea of what I would need. Right. And like want to give it to her. Yeah. But you're like, is that about you giving it to me? Or is it about you wanting things to play out in the way that you need them to? Yeah. Or could it be both? Like I had a lot of compassion. I still have a lot of compassion for Jack. Yeah. Which is, I know maybe sounds a little twisted, but I think it's the key to how we make any of this gender violence and stuff better. Right. Is the idea of like trying to understand why somebody does what they do. Yeah.
I had a question about Jack. So when you wrote the character of Jack, who is the antagonist in The Apology, I just want to know, in your mind, does he care?
Oh, very, very good question. I think he does, which I think makes it even more complicated. Yeah. Because for me, the thing about narcissists, which he's a narcissist, and he's in a very extreme version of that, you know, but most of us don't encounter narcissists that actually kill people. Thank goodness. But we all unfortunately know a lot of narcissists, and especially a lot of male narcissists, right? So I believe that those folks do care, but only to the capacity that they have, right? So I think he does think that she's the love of his life. I do think that he thinks that he's coming there to put her out of her misery. Yeah. I think he does think that stuff is sincere and isn't seeing the very basic truth, which is if you cared about her, you wouldn't do it this way. No. This is the most horrible way you can do it. He thinks it's the most private, calm, like peaceful way of doing it, and that he's willing to throw himself like at her mercy. Right. And so isn't that what anyone would want? Yeah. It's like, no, that's what you think revenge or justice is. So that was a lot of what we talked about, my collaborators and I, the idea of like, what is justice? What is revenge? I'm obsessed with revenge thrillers, obviously. I wouldn't have made this movie, but it's like I really wanted to say something different about that. You know, that it's like, well, I am obsessed with that subject matter, and yet I like to think of myself as a very compassionate person, and so I wouldn't want to kill the person. Right. But I would want to make them understand. Yeah. One of my favorite parts of the process was talking to Linus about that. Trying to understand like how he could live his life for those years. Yeah. And you know, make breakfast and go to work. Right. You know, like how do you do that? I came up with this concept that he had convinced himself it was an accidental death. Right. And it's like, what's your version of an accident, bro? Yeah. Like, it's not. Yeah. But just that idea that, like, the stories we tell ourselves to get through the day. Yeah. Which I think everybody, I love The Big Chill, which somebody, like, likened this movie to kind of, like, a very dark version of The Big Chill. And I was very complimented. But there's this great line that Goldblum says in it where he's like, I think rationalizations are more important than sex. And his friend's like, what are you talking about? I was like, yeah, but have you ever gone a day without a juicy rationalization? So I think he's done the ultimate job of that.
There was a part at the end, I don't want to give it away, but there's a part at the end where she's at a fork in the road, if you will.
Sure, yeah.
And I really love that she kind of acted as if she was taking a left, but she took a right.
Yeah.
And Janine Garofalo's character was like, oh, thank God.
Yes. Yes.
That was so good. Because that would have been me. No, you're going to ruin yourself if you do that.
The love between them was so important to me.
Yeah.
And important to Anna and Janine as well. Like, they really cared about that part of it. And, and I got self-conscious at one point. Like, Janine's basically watching people do stuff through this movie. And I said, I wish I had, like, more for you. She goes, it's not about that. And we had talked about, like, that how often... Because I feel like I'm sort of a unicorn in the women that I know that I've not been a victim of sexual violence. I haven't had a lot of sexual harassment even. I've been very fortunate. We know how rare that is. Mm-hmm. But I have paid witness so often. I have literally sat on a bed like that and listened as somebody was telling me what happened to them so many times. Yeah. You know, too many times.
Too many.
And it's such a heartbreaking thing. So Janine was very like, I get what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
Just really understood it. So that was really cool.
I love that. Shifting a little bit here to your short.
Quite a shift, actually.
Yes.
Because tonally, they are very different movies.
Oh, so different. If someone had sent me both of them without knowing that you wrote or directed either of them, I would have thought they were completely different people.
Yeah.
I love when, like, you can look at a film and you know who's directing it, but I also love the opposite.
Yeah.
Because that just shows your range.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. That was kind of my goal because I've been writing a sort of slasher comedy.
Nice.
And a ghost story film where the people are funny, but the subject matter isn't funny.
Cool.
And so I really wanted to play with the tonal tightrope. You know, I'm kind of forever obsessed with American Werewolf in London and how they managed to sort of play that tonal thing all the time.
Yeah.
It's like so genuinely scary, so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And then Griffin Dunn's like, are you going to finish that?
Right.
I mean, it's so good. I really wanted to play with that, like, you know, making a feature really reminds you of like how much goes into really getting the tone right and how tricky that can be. Mm-hmm. So I kind of just wanted to experiment with it literally at my house with my friends, low stakes.
Yeah.
You know. As much as like you say, as much as I love the sort of auteur guys, like the filmmakers that you can always tell their style.
Yeah.
I also really love the journeyman. Like Sidney Lumet's one of my favorites.
Okay.
So I love, like, just somebody who tells the story in whatever way it needs to be told.
Yeah.
And I like to think that it's not so much style, that it's sort of subject matter and themes that are the same in every one of my movies. Most of them are about mothers. Most of them are about trying to, like, make it through in one way or the other.
Yeah.
Most of them are challenging sort of gender issues, and disability is a big theme because my daughter and my brother and sister are both blind. There's a lot of disability and mental illness in my family. Yeah. So, you know, there's themes and things that run through it.
Do you have genre blending filmmakers or films that inspire you?
Yeah, so it's basically about this mom who is struggling to go get her stuff dropped off so that she can go and pick her daughter up for pickup time from school. And if you are a parent listening to this, pickup time is shockingly high stakes. It's like you feel so stressed. You're either coming from your job or you're coming from your errands or whatever it is you got to do. It never feels leisurely somehow, magically. It always feels kind of awful. And so it was like, well, what if she's trying to get out of there, but then something calamitous happens to her and she's still trying to get there? Because I have been the stay-at-home mom who was like racing from the grocery store and put my groceries inside and left my doors open. I remember thinking, that's fucking stupid. Like, what if somebody just decides to come in and fuck with me?
Yeah.
You know? Like, what would I do? And, like, what would my reaction be?
Right.
I love daytime horror. I love anything where you can take those, like, basic fears. I always think about our dear Mr. Craven and how he would talk about how you've got to write what you're afraid of first, and that's where you start from. I always think, okay, what if it was, you know, a regular day and you're just in the middle of living your life and somebody decides to just bring chaos to your doorstep, and then to feel sort of gaslit and like controlled after that too. You know what I mean? Because they always say, like, going back to, you know, the violence stuff, it's like friends who have experienced it, it's usually not the violence itself, it's the the emotional violence afterwards that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Nobody believes you, nobody cares, nobody thinks that your feelings are important.
Yeah.
And very often with being a mom, I do feel like my feelings, my needs are far, far, far less important to people than my daughters, which, to some degree, sure, like the children come first. I'm not an asshole.
Sure.
But at the same time, I think the more we look at how to care for the whole family, the more we can have the kids cared for properly, right? Yeah. And we do, I think, as a country and probably as a world, treat mothers as expendable.
Yeah.
Either quite literally or at least in terms of our feelings and how we get kind of like beaten down.
Yeah.
So, but I wanted it to be funny too, so.
And it was. I laughed out loud. I thought it was fucking hilarious.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I made it with my friends, Zena Logan, who played the main woman, and Dustin Reinhardt, who's in like, I think you'll start seeing both of them everywhere because they're in all of our shorts. So it's like, cool. As soon as all these horror filmmakers start making features, it'll suddenly be like them and Anastasia Washington, who plays the 911 operator, who I know you're about to meet with too. They are just in everything and are just such good actors and understood like exactly what I was going for tonally, and also help me kind of find it. I think that's the thing when you're doing a tonal tightrope. I think it's important to not be too cocky about it because your actors will help you find that rhythm a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that's something I'm excited to get to do on a grander scale, hopefully, with the next feature. So I'm still writing.
What did you say was the genre for this one that you're writing?
Oh, this one is a slasher comedy.
A slasher comedy,
and
that's
then the other one is an autism ghost story. So it's about an autism family. So
that's cool.
Yeah, very different things. So the slasher is called The Carving. It's a Thanksgiving film.
Fun.
And then the ghost story is called Hello Friends.
Oh.
Which is what they teach kids when they're taking speech therapy and learning social skills. That's one of the first things they teach them is how to say hello, friends. Except it's not friends.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Something has come home with you. I love the Something Has Come Home With You films, so I want to make one.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Ugh, that's so cool. I want to watch so many more of what you've done.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, after watching The Apology last night, I was just like, this woman is a powerhouse. Like, what the fuck? It was really incredible. Oh, of course.
Well, and I got lucky, too. I had incredible collaborators for a first feature to have these producers, Kim Sherman, Lisa Whalen, Tracy Jorgensen, our editor, Lana Wolverton, our DP, Jack Caswell. I mean, I could go on and on. I mean, like the sound team on this, Julie Diaz and her team.
Oh, yeah.
Incredible.
The sound was really cool.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer. And like one of my filmmaking heroes is Lee Winnell, and I love his emphasis on sound design. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, I feel like I just scraped the surface of what could be possible and that I want to like learn to do. And so
well, this was
really
your
fun.
first pancake.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
You'll have more.
I know, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Yes. Tomorrow, please. Yeah.
Tomorrow would be great. Because I'm also a horror filmmaker, soon to be.
Oh, great.
At some point.
Yes.
I'm in the process. But what would you say to young women, but also minority filmmakers who want to enter the genre or are trying to enter the genre?
Yeah.
Like, do you have any kind of advice, really?
Like, so much.
Like, all of it.
All of it. The biggest advice I'd say to anybody is to absolutely 100% tell the story that you want to tell. Be as specific as possible. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to come from your personal life, but it does have to come from what Judith Weston, who writes these great books about directing, she's an actor too, she talks about your fascinations or your obsessions. Like, follow those. You know, like, don't feel like you are trying to fit anything.
Yeah.
There's always going to be, in our business, there's always folks who are so certain they know the rules or what you're supposed to do or whatever else.
Yeah.
And it's all one person. It's just one person's thought, you know. And so I think it's important to not feel like you have to, if you're queer, tell a queer story. You know, if you're a woman, then you have to tell a woman's story.
Right.
Not that. It's more just like that you are being specific about what you think is fascinating and what you think is interesting and what you think is something that, you know, it's the old story of like make the film that you want to see, although the joke I like to say is that by the time you do, you're fucking sick of it. I'm so glad I made my dream movie that I can't watch anymore. It's very important to make space for your work And especially being a mom, I really had to, that's been a struggle ongoing. Like when I talked about my emotions of making the film, part of it was also just, I wasn't prepared for people to ask me what I wanted. Right? Isn't that kind of fucked up? But it's true. It took me a bit to realize like that's what I was kind of like, oh. And I had spent all this time, of course, preparing in extreme detail, really thinking everything through, having 5 million conversations and making lookbooks and doing all the things.
Yeah.
And yet when somebody's like, and especially because there's, you know, inevitably on a crew, there's still a lot of men, as much as we try for all of our gender parity. And I think we did a really good job. We got the reframe stamp on the apology I was very proud of. But there's still very often there's a guy going, okay, so what would you like? Would you like this or you like this? Forgive me. But it's like, and I was like, oh! So it really did teach me, it's like we do have to make, I call it parting the waters. You have to just go, this is the time that I'm spending on this. And what I think is interesting.
Right.
And like honor that.
Yeah.
Because so often I'll be like, well, but a lot of the people think it's too weird or too boring or too this or too that or too whatever. Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? Do your thing. Because that's our job as filmmakers. Like your job really is the vision. And so you have to stick to it.
Right.
And believe in what it is. Be flexible. Don't be an asshole. Like if people have a great idea, take it.
Yeah.
But don't take everyone's ideas just because you think they're more experienced than you.
Sure.
Because that doesn't matter in that job.
Right.
You know, like your job is the creative vision of it. Yeah. So I'd say those are like the biggest things. And like make time. Like be a little boring in that you schedule your work time. You know, we all have to, most of us cannot just like work all day and we don't have that life, you know? So it's like, I literally have I have like a physical schedule binder that a planner, words are my weapon, a planner. And so like every Sunday I write out my schedule for the week. I host writing sprint Zooms so that I can make sure that I am writing during those times and I carve it out and I say, here's my goals. And then when I, don't live up to everything, I'm like, try to be kind, to yourself.
Yeah.
But like the kids need you to be an example. They need a healthy mother.
Of course. Yes.
And that includes like taking care of your creative self.
Yes.
Shirley Jackson's one of my big heroes. And she was a stay-at-home mom when she was first starting. Oh, wow. And so she'd literally keep notebooks in her kitchen as she's cooking dinner. And it really was very freeing to me learning that because it was like throw away your idea of the perfect writing session or the perfect meeting. Have a meeting where your cat's in your... That's something that I think lockdown taught us too, right? Your kids, your partners, your cats, everybody's in the mix and you're still going, okay, but what I meant was this about the color palette. And just, this is life. Yeah. And I think that's something beautiful about the idea of filmmaking opening up to women, opening up to queer folks, opening up to lots of different experiences, is that it isn't just sort of this idea of like, I've got to close and lock my office door and now we're focused.
Yeah.
Because
it doesn't work like that.
It doesn't really work like that.
No.
And don't feel strange. Don't feel like you're fucking up because you can't have that.
Right.
You'll train your brain to have 15 minutes of golden writing time. And then suddenly you'll have 4 hours of golden writing time the next day.
Yeah. I've found when I have like a full day of just taking care of myself, the next day I'm wildly productive and creative.
Yeah. You have to. You have to do that too. You can't just drive.
Yeah.
And even though I try so hard.
Yeah,
I like to joke that that I'm not good at relaxing, but I'm working really hard at getting better at it.
Yeah. Same. Well, thank you so much for just sitting here and chatting with me.
Oh my God, I
being
could
your
do it
wonderful
for 4
self.
more hours. You're lovely. This is great.
It's just so fun.
I love it. I love the horror babes. I also wanted to give a shout out to the Women in Horror meetup here in LA.
Yeah.
If you aren't in LA, may this inspire you to form your own. Shannon Brown and Anastasia Washington, who are just queens, started this group that has been a home for so many of us. We get together, talk about process, talk about how to stay sane and keep going.
Do you have any tags or anything you'd like to plug?
Oh, sure. So you can find me on Instagram. What else now? Blue Sky. It all changes so quickly. I'm on Blue Sky. Alison Star Locke at all of those. Yeah. Watch The Apology. You can watch it on Shudder, AMC Plus,
and Hulu. Yeah.
VOD, Blu-ray. We actually even have a Blu-ray, which I felt very fancy about.
Wow. That is fancy.
Yeah, so that was cool. And then Pickup Time will be at the Renegade Film Festival Festival if you're in Atlanta. And that's February 21st and 2nd.
Cool.
And then it'll be on YouTube. So if you follow my socials, I'll put a blast on that. And yeah, feel free to always reach me out to me on DMs. I like to try to respond to folks. It's really nice to hear what they think of the movies, or just nerd out together.
Yeah. Well, thank you again.
Thank you
so
for having
much.
me. It
Yeah.
was so much fun.
I hope we get to chat more. All right. Bye, babe.
Bye, babe.
Well, that's it from me and Allison. Hope you enjoyed this week's Filmmaker Friday. Tune in every Friday for a new Filmmaker interview episode. Make sure to catch The Apology on Shudder, Amazon Prime, or Hulu, and follow Allison to keep updated on when her new short Pickup Time becomes available on YouTube. Please don't forget to like, comment, follow, and subscribe. Follow me and Allison at the social media handles below. Bye, babe.